What was one of the biggest products Ford came out with in the 2020s? Can anyone remember? Well, if you don't remember, I'll tell you here in a second, but that truck is potentially on the chopping block, which is very, very interesting. Now, if you don't remember, Ford is having a tough time this year because one of their aluminum suppliers had a fire, which has significantly hurt production of their Ford pickups, which are predominantly all aluminum. So we're going to share this article and we have to discuss the elephant in the room. There's definitely something to be said here because we were supposed to be going in a direction away from internal combustion engines, but now it seems like the internal combustion engine is going to prevail after all. Let's check out this article, but before we do that, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure your bell notifications are on so you don't miss an upload. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with Ford. I found this article on caranddriver.com and it goes on to say that things may go from bad to worse for the Ford F-150 Lightning's future prospects. The electric truck's continued existence was already in question. A September fire at an aluminum supplier forced the automaker to cut F-150 production in half, with assembly of the Lightning EV being put on indefinite pause. Now, the Wall Street Journal reports that Ford executives are actively discussing canceling the electric full-size pickup entirely. Isn't it crazy what a couple years can do? I remember when the Ford F-150 Lightning came out, people were paying over MSRP. Ford Motor Company was raising the prices pretty much throughout the year. And there was a waiting list to buy this truck. Now you fast forward to now, F-150 Lightnings are pretty much 90 to 100 days on the lots. And so what's happening now is a shift. See, unfortunately, depending on who's in office dictates this, right? The Democrats love to lower emissions. The Republicans don't really care about emissions as much. And so that's why you're seeing a shift here, because if we were still back in 2021, 2022, there would still be a big push for this truck. But it was all hype from the beginning. Now, Car and Driver did contact Ford, and they basically received a response saying, "We don't comment on speculation about future product plans. It's normal for automakers to decline to share unannounced plans, especially those that are still in flux, as this one seems to be." Now, in the wake of the supplier issue, Ford has funneled its limited supplies of aluminum toward body panels for F-150 gas and hybrid models, presumably because those are the profitable versions. That's putting it nicely. I'm going to tell you the truth though. Nobody wants an electric truck. And here's why. I had one for about 4 or 5 days. I rented it. I paid with my own money just to test it out. And from 18% or wherever it was pretty low. It took me 2 hours on a fast charger to put that truck at 100%. Now the reason why I had to do it at 100% is because when I was taking it back to the owner, he wanted it at 100%. So it took me 2 hours to do that. And it wasn't cheap. So here's the really bad news for Ford. Right here. The Ruse Electric Vehicle Center is pretty much idle now that the F-150 Lightning is in limbo. That's all that factory produces. If the Lightning is dropped, that plant might not find a new use until Ford begins producing a new EV. Its only other electric offering is the Mustang Mach-E, which is produced at a plant in Mexico and unaffected by the aluminum shortage. I guess Ford doesn't have any good investors because most people know you never put all your eggs in one basket. They were betting on the Ford F-150 Lightning. And now they have a factory with people employed that have nothing to do. Despite Ford claiming the EV pickup crown, the Lightning hasn't been a profitable model. Ford assures us that there is a good supply of 2025 Lightnings. We count nearly 5,000 available on the Car and Driver marketplace. And while the automaker has announced some changes for the 2026 model already, chief among them making the extended battery standard across the board, it's possible none will be built for public consumption. The electrified Lightning joined the F-150 lineup for 2022. A follow-up to the F-150 Lightning was originally planned for the 2025 model year, but has since been pushed back multiple times and is currently slated for 2028. It's unclear whether the potential cancellation of the current Lightning would affect those future plans yet again. Ford's next electric pickup, which is expected to be roughly the size of the Maverick and built on a new universal EV platform in a new way, is set to go into production in 2027. The unnamed mid-size e-truck will be built on what the company calls an assembly tree, an evolution of the assembly line pioneered by its namesake, and those activities will occur at its plant in Louisville, Kentucky. Ford says the electric pickup will have a starting price of about $30,000, but like production plans, that could change. During 2021 and 2024, I was known as what was called an EV hater, simply because I hated the fact that they were hyping up EV trucks when the hype wasn't really there. Now obviously when you have something new, the latest and greatest, everyone wants to go out and buy it. But after the hype is gone, how do you keep that hype going? See, back in the early 1900s, people had an option to either have their horse and buggy, which they were used to having, or the automobile. And you have to think back to that time. There were probably people who could afford to have an automobile, but did not want an automobile. So they continued using their horse and buggy. But in time, as the automobile with the internal combustion engine started to advance, started to become more affordable, started to go longer distances, it was able to hold itself in the marketplace to be essential. The internal combustion engine today is so essential that EVs have a big order to fill to be able to basically make them obsolete. And here's a good question for you guys. What has the electric vehicle done in the last decade? What have they done to really make a mark on the automobile? Nope, there's nothing. I mean, what can they do that an internal combustion engine cannot? Like seriously, I know that some people might say, well, they don't put out emissions, but that's debatable because those precious metals that they use in those batteries hurt the environment, right? Especially when you think about having to produce those batteries too. So regardless of your feelings, I think Ford made a big mistake with the Ford Lightning. They created a factory that's now sitting at idle, not building trucks because they did not account for this potential issue. I mean, who would ever thought that a factory would catch fire and now your main resource is not available right now, cutting half of your production for your most popular pickup, most popular model really. So what can Ford do between now and then? And here's my honest opinion. I think that Ford should really push what has always been a deciding factor for buyers, and that's giving them more displacement. Yes, I know I was gonna make, sorry about that, there's a refrigerator I had to turn off, it got really loud, but yes, I think that the manufacturer should definitely look at internal combustion engines to make them better. I really think that they took their foot off the pedal. I've said this so many times, and Ford has an option here. They need to do what they can do to bring back that fun factor for the Ford F-150. The Ford Lightning, and I'm talking about the original Ford Lightning, was one of my all-time favorite trucks as a kid. I had multiple model cars of that truck. I had a red one, I think I had a black one, and I love that, what did they call them, like the step side? Was it called step side back in the day? I just miss pickup trucks and the cool features that they had. And what can they do today to make them more economical and make them more, I would say, fun to look at and want to potentially buy? Because right now, EVs are not going to be able to fit that bill. But I hope this video was helpful. I am not home, probably you guys can tell. I'm actually at my parents' house. And look at this view here, guys. Oh my gosh. I did a video on this house, by the way. My parents were actually thinking about selling it before they moved into it, and then they decided to move into it anyways. And yeah, I love this house. Like,
kind of want to move back to South Carolina now. Just saying. I'm not going to, but maybe when I retire. Later.